Today we're going to be working with watercolors. The first technique we're going to go over is Crayon Resist. So you have your white crayon, and I'm going to be working on flowers. So reference photos there, and I'm going to start lightly sketching in the outlines of my flowers. And remember, crayon does not erase, so go slow, be careful. I like to do things from nature when working on this because we'll be doing some wet on wet techniques. It works really well. So the first step of the wet and wet is to get your paper completely wet. Add some clean, clear water all over, and we'll be adding in the watercolor to that. And this is going to have it so that there's some nice bleeding and blending going on that we're actually going to work with. So you start adding in your watercolors, and remember, work light. Start with your lighter colors and start with light coats because you can always darken it up later. So I'm just starting to do some petals on some flowers, putting a nice light coat on. Don't have to be too careful. You can kind of let it bleed around. It's part of the nice qualities of the wet on wet technique. Speeding it up here. I'm still using the same technique, just darkening areas I want to darken and just letting the colors bleed together, letting the darks bleed into the lights. We'll put the details in later, so it's just getting kind of the first layer on. Darken where you feel needs to be darkened a little bit here. Alright, I added just a really light background to help make my white flower pop out, and again, start with your lighter, we'll work darker, we'll darken it up and change it. Now we're doing wet on dry techniques, so I'm adding wet watercolor to a dry page or partially dried. It's not as wet as it was before. So I still get a little bit bleeding because some areas aren't completely dried, but other areas are, and you'll get those nice lines. Now we're adding in some details into the background. Again, I start with light colors. I'm just putting on a lot thicker watercolor where before I thinned it out with water. Now it's just a little bit thicker. Starting with the yellows, I can add some oranges or reds into there later to make it pop out more, but starting with the light and just picking some lines or some patterns to fill the background up a little bit, make those flowers pop off more. So, filled the page with the background. I'm going to add a few finishing details now that it's pretty much completely dry. Just a few little fine lines in here and there. Finish it up nicely. And here is our watercolor that uses wet on dry, wet on wet, and crayon resist. It's a nice little piece, gets to explore the media a little bit. Finally, I'm going to add just a few crayon pieces just for the very fine details in the flower there. You don't want to add too much, but if there's a few areas that you want something, you can use colored pencils or crayons for this and add your few little details in that you feel like you need. After you finish that, pull your tape off and you're finished. Got a nice border here, and it's ready to be framed, matted, or varnished. And there is your watercolor piece.